Now, this one I kind of am intrigued by, and you and I think, have talked about this, and I have a new thought on it. So, Nate Davis from USA Today has the Browns taking Zaven Collins at 26. Thoughts on that one?
So, I've been on the Zaven Collins train since January. My good friend Ellis Williams, who's on this show a lot, has also come around on the Zaven Collins train. And then when we had one of our Gotta Watch the Tape podcast the other day. I think Ellis and I both kind of removed ourselves from the Zaven Collins train, not because we don't like him, but just because there's another position that I just feel like it's not a gaping hole. This roster doesn't have any gaping holes, but there's just one position to me that just feels like there's an opening, that between Anthony Walker, Jacob Phillips, Malcolm Smith, enough linebackers that they have right now. And then Zaven Collins, and a lot of these linebackers can do it, can give you a little bit of that edge rush presence too. But now you add Clowney, Tutak McKinley, you brought Porter Gustin back. Is that as much of a need? So I'm all for it. I would love to see Zaven Collins be a Brown, but I don't know that if you're thinking at all about need, and when I say need, it's about is there a guy that could help them win the Super Bowl in 2021? I think there might be a guy at a different position that would maybe help him a little more than Zaven would.
Here's my thought and I arrived at this, I think it was Friday. So the reason I like Zaven Collins is I think they need a guy that can run sideline to sideline, has some speed, that is big and physical to be able to handle the quarterbacks that will step in their way, being Lamar Jackson, being Josh Allen, even Patrick Mahomes to a certain extent. You have to be fast enough to chase him down, and then you have to be big enough to bring him down, particularly in the case of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, where, if you're a safety, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen are going to give you the big brother treatment a little bit. So that's my thought behind, I like the idea of a guy like Zaven Collins, who also gives them some flexibility. He can cover, he can rush. Am I making too much of that? And I know you're probably going cornerback, and I agree.
Yes, and if we can talk about corner, because that is where my head has gotten to as you just watch everything else, as you watch Anthony Walker come in, as you watch Jack McKinley and Jadeveon Clowney come in. I agree with you, though. We've talked a lot again on our podcast about sort of taking away the middle of the field against guys like Lamar Jackson. John Johnson helps you do that to some degree, right? But a linebacker like that, they've kind of patched it together at linebacker. We talked about linebacker a lot last offseason and during last season. And if you could get an answer at linebacker, I think the 26th spot in the first round is a great place to do that. This team's never going to take a linebacker in the top 15. They also aren't going to be picking the top 15 for a while. So I think that would make sense. You don't have to patch it together anymore. I think if you draft that guy, maybe not right away this year, but then the next 3 or 4 years, he's on the field every down, basically, for this defense, and he's an answer. And I think a linebacker answer at 26 makes a lot of sense. Value where this draft is with guys who are available. If Zaven Collins, who I think is the kind of guy you're talking about, is available at 26, I just don't know if he's the guy. I'm seriously, Dave, I'm seriously thinking about, is there a guy who could be the 23rd best player on your team right now that helps you win a Super Bowl? That's where they are right now. And you really shouldn't. If free agency is need, draft is talent. That's the way the smart teams do it. And I think that the Browns will do that. But, man, I do think they need something else at outside corner. Maybe they'll address that in another way. But I don't think, we have Troy Hill, who looks like the slot corner, who can play outside. But if Greedy can't go for some reason and Troy Hill's outside, well, now who's your slot corner? Now you're at MJ Stewart. I don't know what you're doing. They need another body they trust at outside corner, and it looks like they have a chance to get it in the first round. And if they don't, then I think they have to do something somewhere else, and it just might be an easy solution. But I am not against Zaven. We'll have a Zaven party if it happens, because I love everything that guy does.
I agree. And the one thing about corner, I would like him to get a bigger corner that can handle some of the bigger wide receivers. So if those top 3 or 4 guys are gone, I'm not so sure I'm as sold on like an Asante Samuel Jr. just because the size concerns me. I want him to be able to handle some of the bigger body wide receivers opposite Denzel Ward.
Yeah, and Asante Samuel's the guy who's been on my mind for a long time, but I have the same but as you do, that, and I haven't researched it enough to know how much of a thing that is in the NFL. It's like, well, if you have a smaller corner, do you really want a bigger corner? Or are there teams that have been really successful with slightly smaller corners because they can cover and you're great? But it also is a spot where I think at 26, they probably getting like the fifth best corner, because Patrick Surtain's going to be gone for sure. And then that next group is Greg Newsome, Caleb Farley, J.C. Horn, and Asante Samuel. I think at least one of those guys will be there. But I also am sure the Browns wouldn't just say, well, we'll take who's ever left. You know, that they'll like one of those guys or two of those guys more than another one. So if the guy they like is the guy who's there, then maybe they go. But maybe the guy they don't have graded as high if he's the one who's left. So I don't think you know what corner is going to be available. A lot of people like Greg Newsome. Will he be there? I don't know. Caleb Farley, it felt like early in the draft process from Virginia Tech, and opt-out from last year, was kind of high in the first round. Now I've seen a lot of mocks where he's there at 26. J.C. Horn, for a lot of people, feels like maybe the second corner off the board behind Patrick Surtain. But then I was just goofing around on a mock simulator, draft simulator, because what else do I have to do? And got to pick 26 for the Browns, and J.C. Horn was there. And I was like, I can't believe it. So that's the thing, Dave, that they won't just take whatever corner is left, right? Because that's not the way you do it. You can't be so need heavy that you do that. But if the right corner is there, right? If they're really in on Newsome and he's there, or they're really in on Horn, or they really like Samuel, even though he's smaller. If the right corner is there at 26, I think that might be the optimum pick. And if it's not the right corner and Zaven's around, let's have a Zaven party.